Now it's live.
Okay, so we're live. So welcome, welcome, guys, welcome, ladies, and welcome, viewers. Tonight we're talking with a bit of a roundtable with Marianne and Gluaiseachta, ladies of the movement.
Thanks, Conor.
We'll get Jenny.
So,
Conor,
Conor,
do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
So my name
Go on, Serena. Yeah, please.
Okay, right. So I'm Serena Irvine. I'm from the National Party. Walk away, girls.
I'm Karen Green from the Irish Freedom Party from Drogheda.
Okay, I'm Jenny Mortell, a Gemma O'Doherty supporter who hopefully will have her ACI party set up very shortly. She has very many names, probably a lot more than she needs to actually get going with it. But at the moment, it's a bit of a limbo. Well, like everything is in limbo just now, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Guy, what sort of?
Yeah, come on, Conor. No, walk away.
I'm gonna take a back seat and let you guys just talk about whatever you want to talk about within the. I know some of you have got some particular things you want to bring up. Within maybe talk about what's topical, what's going on at the moment, and also what brought you to nationalism, and also to promote the idea of activism, the idea of getting off the sofa and actually taking part. Was it easy? Was it hard? What are the things that you came up against? What have you had to overcome? What was easier than you thought? Is it satisfying? To give people feel the people who are maybe would love to be doing be able to show their face like ourselves, but just wondering how to go about doing it and what needs what needs to happen, what they need to plotting a pathway from where they are to where you ladies are. Yeah, because we all agree that we agreed before the thing went on that we need more activism. That most the nationalist movement has a very strong message. Whenever we do get talking to the public, it's not called populist for nothing. It is a popular message. The truth is that there's just not enough of us to get around everybody. So we need to grow our activist team. So take it away.
Right, so I suppose I'll start because girls are just looking at me. What got me into it was just seeing in my own community how bad things were, how bad, like, we have a very high suicidal rate where I live. Apart from that, the likes of old folks, they've nothing around where in my constituency. So that's what kind of started getting me into it, was through the mental health and the old folks, and I start getting into joining groups and stuff like that. And then I met Jenny, actually. And yeah, through that then I start getting more active and doing things, and that's what really started me off. So yeah, that's pretty much where I started. So if anything happens, I blame it all on Jenny.
Oh, thank you.
I'm blaming you, Jenny.
That's sort of a dubious honour. Okay,
Yeah.
do you want to go now, Karen?
Well, mine's a bit different. I was in Dublin for 19 years and I came back to a town, to Drogheda, for I don't know anymore. And there was a big, huge political vacuum. And last year, when we were going through the local and European elections, I could see how big of a vacuum there was. And at the time, our party wasn't really, was only starting to get going themselves. So I started helping a local activist in the local elections, and I started to kind of get used to knowing who was who in Drogheda area, because I was kind of out of the loop. And when our election, our general election came about, we had a candidate, and I started getting involved then. It was more that it was looking at the vacuum. We know what a choice. There's no choice there. Like, the usual suspects, like Sinn Féin was very strong in Drogheda, so we were kind of looking at how do we fill that gap. And obviously our party came in and we had a candidate, and I got very involved in organising from the back in Drogheda. There was 2 teams, so we kind of helped out, getting the leaflets and canvassing, and it was more to do with giving an alternative to the Drogheda people, because there was such an apathy, and there was an awful lot, very low say people coming out to vote, and they had no interest because they had no choice. And that's where I was coming from. And obviously there's a high crime rate, and at the time, as you well know, Drogheda has gone through a very bad gang feud, and I started actually just after I arrived in Drogheda. And also there's no development in Drogheda, there's no jobs. I'm one of the many commuters that leave early in the morning to go to Dublin. So there's no real kind of life in Drogheda. The whole life is sucked out of it. The town centre itself is actually gone. Even before all this national emergency, there's no real life, no shops. They're all nearly closing, and the retail parks are taking the life out of it. And there's no fight anymore. So I felt as though we needed somebody to kind of fight for the basics, getting the Irishness back in, the Irish shops, the typical shop that was there before.
The independent
did thrive in the 80s. Sorry?
The independent retailers.
Yes, exactly. And I'm seeing like the likes of Home Flair and places like that would provide a very good service. And likes of Dunn Stores, even Dunn Stores, they're basic Dunn Stores that would be there for years, competing with Tesco's, and they'd be shutting up early at 6 o'clock on a Friday evening. There's nothing there that used to be there when I was growing up as a teenager. The whole thing was changed. I didn't know it anymore, and there was no life. Anything that was trying to kind of get anywhere was closing down. The shopping centres, those units in the shopping centres that were in the town facility were closing down. We lost Next after Christmas. We're losing the whole place, and there's no any chance of getting a project because the the Northern Cross area route was every time it went up against for planning permission, it was turned down twice to get housing development and a train station on the north side. It was not getting anywhere. Also, there's a group in Drogheda who are, I think that Drogheda City Status group, they can't get Drogheda City. And every time they try and do that now, they can't get anywhere. So there's a lot of things that need to be done in Drogheda that's local as well as national issues that really got me involved in the politics in Drogheda. And I'm actually delighted that I find it very difficult to kind of settle in Drogheda, but now with the politics and the involvement of being politically active in Drogheda has actually helped me settle in it a bit more, made it easier. So that's the angle I was coming at. So that's it. And you're right, it is very difficult to kind of when we were running the campaign, we only had a couple, as you will know, Conor, you were running Dundalk, we were running Drogheda. The numbers were kind of hit and miss regarding, getting people to canvass and trying to run that on a shoestring. So we don't have numbers, but hopefully with the background work, over the next coming months, we'll get more people on board. But as you well know, anyone who runs a campaign, the three of us have done it. It's very, very difficult to get people out, and people don't have the same, fire in their belly. They want it to be done for them, I think, and give them confidence. I found that 5 years ago when I was involved in politics with the water charges in Crumlin, in Dublin, a lot of women, older women than me, got very involved in politics. So it was very, very actually encouraging. But I found that it's kind of changed, that maybe there's more apathy, because everybody think, the job is done maybe. We don't seem to there's more fear there, I think. So I think we need to kind of give courage to people. We do more of this. I see more people talking like this, men and women, forums like this all the time. It might actually encourage people to kind of get off their armchairs and come out and go to meetings and doing stalls and canvassing and going to public meetings. It might actually start again. I'd like to see what's happening in Dublin, happening in Drogheda. That's basically where I'm coming from.
Yeah, because I have to say now, to be honest, in fairness, I had a good bit of support when I was doing my canvassing. And I don't think it's apathy that stops people from actually stepping forward to help. I think it's more fear of being labelled something that you're not like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our biggest thing for the elections was obviously immigration, right? It was a big thing for our elections, and people were afraid to be called racist and stuff like that. Yeah. Why? Because you don't want mass immigration in your country. That's not racist. That's just logical.
Yeah.
I agree. And
I think... Can I ask you a question? To clarify things for the viewers. How many people would you have spoken to in the course of the campaign, how many members of the public would you have spoken to? And then out of those people, how many would have given you a hard time about the nationalist movement's stance on controlling immigration? Because I think this is very illuminating for the viewers who haven't spoken to the public. And I'm not going to steal your thunder. I just want to hear.
What happened was, anyone that, when you're knocking on the doors and you're talking about it, people are saying like, "Oh yeah, we're totally against mass immigration." No, because as a stance, I'm not against immigration. Immigration can be good for a country, but mass immigration and importing people into a country is not good for it. And when you're talking to people at the doors, they were like, "Yeah, we're completely against this. We're completely against that, and we want to put a stop to it." And they're taking over the country, and something has to be done. We had, in all honesty, I had one incident where we had a couple come out to the door. Now, they were a Canadian couple and start calling us racist and trolls and stuff like that. But that was just the one time.
Out of 1,000, 2,000 people that you spoke to?
I reckon, I'd say about 2,000, roughly.
There you go. And then, did you feel that you were providing some sort of service for the other people, a lightning rod for them to express their feelings?
Yeah, I knocked on hundreds of doors. There was doors I knocked on where I was brought into the house and I was left sitting in the house with these people for like a half an hour. Now, that wasn't to do with immigration, that was more to do with housing and stuff like that. And, and these people had nowhere to go, and you were sitting trying to comfort them and see, could you help them out in any way? But the biggest thing was people still assume Sinn Féin are a national party. Mm-hmm. That was the biggest thing at the doors.
I saw that myself in North Dublin. Yeah.
Dublin, because you've done a lot of canvassing as well, so I don't know whether you found the same or not.
Yes. We got a Sinn Féin attracts a nationalist voter, even though Sinn Féin itself isn't nationalist anymore, or you could argue about how much not the modern day manifestation. We're not talking about the Sinn Féin of 100 years ago, obviously. And like yourself, I've been invited in, asked to sit down, and I've had to I was in a situation once where I was in the house, and then the door knocks, and it was one of our canvassers. The fellow who I was talking to had invited me in, went to the door, and that was a great sort of like bonding moment for me and the other canvasser who saw me already inside, and he was go, okay, we're doing well. That was like Phil put the wind in his sails as well, because he could see that maybe that was a target for him. Okay, I'm going to make sure I get invited in, to have that level of relaxation, to know that you can be invited in. There was once I was canvassing around. That was in Dublin. That was in Mid Ulster. Another experience here in Cookstown. One of the fellow canvasser, I was going down one side of the street and he was going down the other side of the street about 8 o'clock at night, and he got lost. And I said, what was the last house? I saw him knocking on that door, so I went up and I saw through the window, he was inside sitting down having tea. So they saw me at the window, and then they called me in as well, and it turned out that they knew my uncle, and I actually found it was a great way to get. I'm new to Cookstown, haven't lived in Cookstown before, so I actually feel a bit like what Karen was saying there, from getting out and talking to people. Yeah, I actually feel a lot more comfortable, a lot. Right, okay, what else could I have been doing with that 2 weeks? Like sitting at home, working from home, which was what I would be doing normally, doing a bit of studying and things like that, not being out with the community. But I had that 2 weeks solid community contact experience, and it's great now. I walk around the street and people look at me and smile, and I think, was it sometimes, most of the time I don't recognize them, because like when you see 1,000, 2,000 people, they know you because they know you from the poster, from the leaflets or whatever, but you don't recognize them. But there's a friendly smile there, or there's a look of recognition in their face. So you don't put your head down. You look up and smile back. So I'm certainly it's a warmer. I think once somebody drove past, some youngster drove past in the car and shouted something out at me. I don't even know what it was, because I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to some Irish YouTuber at the time, so I couldn't even hear what they said. But I mean, that's one negative experience and all this positive experience. I see a woman who we were canvassing on the street. And whenever she found out that we had an anti-abortion stance, she dropped everything and wanted more leaflets. And then I seized the moment and says, I could tell by the fact that she was taking more and more leaflets. I says, can we call around sometime and maybe drop in a few more, and maybe you'd come out and work, help us out? And she said, yeah. So you can start with a small team and actually recruit people who have a same mind. Did you find that, Serena? Did you find any?
The anti-abortion thing was huge as well. Like we got a lot of respect for that now. Yeah. Were you scared? You were out canvassing, Karen, weren't you?
Yeah, we mentioned it a few times, and it did come up very positive, because sometimes we went out to churches one Sunday, and that was quite a big thing. People were talking about that, but a lot of the time it was down to like lack of knowledge about the party, and that was the problem as well. That was the knowledge of the lack of more than anything else. That's what you're up against. So you have to go back to basics and go back to saying, well, this is our first time running. We did one last year, but was more as independent. So more as a mix of pushing like pro-life stance, obviously, and other policies we had, and also because we'd introduced a new candidate that was new to the area, and also a new party, you're up against that to an area that had nothing for years. And I mean, talking about like probably 30 years or more, where we had no real new party before. So we had a double kind of job to do in a way. And just going back to the trouble you may have had. I had very little trouble about bringing, the racist issue. I think it happened once the day before polling day. Once. Yeah, and no one else ever called it racist. Yeah. The issue of leaving you probably caused a little bit of, issue, but it wasn't a racist thing they were talking about. Once, of all the people I spoke to in the 3 weeks, one man. Yeah. So it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, you were lucky, girls.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start. I'll say a little bit now. I've been an activist since about 2014, not political, but standing on O'Connell Bridge, trying to attract people's attention about what geoengineering.
Well, you're not doing a bad job now.
Well, it's
a bit louder.
We have attracted a lot of attention. Yeah. And listen, I'm sorry, there's an awful lot of beeping going on here. I should have turned off Facebook, but I'm afraid to touch it.
We can't.
Can you hear it?
Across the screen on the stream. Sorry.
Anyhow, I'll keep going and try to ignore the beeps. So getting involved with political thing, it came as a total surprise to me. It was the way they say it's organic. It just crept up, and probably everybody else stood back, and there were a few of us left standing at the front. But it was we did the two elections, and the first one wasn't so bad. The second one was quite a trial, I must say. Not from the general public, but from all the hassle that we were getting, which you're probably
from activists, other activists on the other side.
Yeah. yes, very
rival activists, shall we say? And that's been nice.
It's been very kind. Yes. So it was quite hard on the morale, quite hard to keep up our courage, but certainly going door to door was fantastic, I must say. It was really lovely. I only got in 2 weeks of that, and especially older people who, once you mentioned a few things, pro-life, anti-corruption, freedom of speech, and open borders, and they were agreeing. And it was so refreshing to hear what I would call older people saying, yeah, the freedom of speech is so important. We don't have that. We don't have anything. And I think if we had had longer time, we would have stood a much better chance. But some really bad experiences with hassle in the street, with people getting right up into our face and screaming and roaring at us. And one woman outside Mass, now she was a coloured person, and she just danced around us for all the time we were there. We held our ground, but it was really, not nice at all. And we couldn't say anything to her. We couldn't sort of say, "Are you a visitor in the country or what?" But bring on the next time. Very sore feet. I'm sure you all noticed that, girls. Did you?
What?
Yes.
Sore feet. Walking. Standing, walking for miles, and
yeah.
You
get sore feet. Yeah, you sure get sore feet.
Need better shoes.
Running around in those high heels, Jenny.
Oh God, no! The practical boots, definitely. Yeah. But I'm sure we're all thinking that we will stand a much better chance the next time if we're given any sort of a lead into things, and if we can pull together.
I think that's, we need to just push the message a bit more, and I reckon we should do a lot better. And
what can we say? Sorry, go on ahead.
No, go on.
No, go on. I'm not going to interrupt somebody if they're on to a good thing. So go ahead.
Never said it was a good thing. I was just saying that, like, if you're saying, if we can get more people in to go out and be a little bit more active and to help the parties, it would give us a better chance, and not to be afraid, just to say to them, like, you have nothing to be afraid of, because we genuinely didn't come up against an awful lot. Unfortunately, we weren't like you, Jenny. I personally didn't get any grief from anybody. I was pretty much, I think, we agree with you, like.
Quite the contrary. It was like a fulfilling experience. It was a life-affirming experience. The old logos, just get out and talk to people, consult with people. Essentially you're asking, you're just having a conversation with people. You're asking them what their issues are. You go through maybe 2 or 3 points. Fairly quickly, within 30 seconds, if somebody's like, worth talking, whether it's worth continuing that conversation or not. And if it is, then, you quickly turn it around to find out what, it's also our way to find out what the public are looking for as well. And then how we can maybe fine tune like our policies to customize them, to work out a way to express them, to highlight the best features or best aspects that will relate to what people are struggling against in their own lives, or what the majority of people are struggling against. So it's a fantastic way to, really get in touch with the public and find out what the people of Ireland need and want. What that you wouldn't get sitting in an ivory tower or just doing your research and whatnot. That's important. Obviously, the movement needs some researchers. The movement needs some ideological core people, the philosophy and all the rest. But to me, it seems as if like 90% of people want to do that and leave 10% of us, or 1% of us, let's say, to do the dirty work, the hard work. And it probably needs to be the other way around, like 1% providing the ideological vanguard and the research, and the other 99% out on, dealing with the public. Now, I know I'm not like a philosopher. I know I'm not like a historian or a political ideologue. I'm not going to be writing the manifestos anytime soon, and I accept that. I'm happy with that. I don't want that role, but I see myself as a public somebody who can get on well with people, and we need probably 100 times more people like ourselves than we do the ideology. So we're just encouraging other people to come out and become more public facing like ourselves. What do you think the movement needs to do to bring more people in, to encourage more people into doing this important role, which is the most important role? Otherwise, we've all agreed there that most people don't know about the movement and the parties, and there is this other option. There's a media blackout, so the only way to get to them is old-fashioned meet and greet, logos on the doorstep or on the street corner, handing out leaflets. So we need to build an army. We need to build an army of foot soldiers across the country in our national movement to do that. How are we going to? What can we say to people to get them in, to reassure them maybe, Because there'll be people who will say, "Oh, I'm never going to do that in a million years," and that's okay. That's fine. But there will be people out there who will say, "Okay, maybe I could, or I'd love to be able to do that." But there's something getting in my way, or maybe what got in your way, and how did you overcome that to get to actually be in a situation where you could actually push the movement forward, push a message forward with the public. And what does the movement need to do to encourage more people like ourselves to come forward?
I think
I just say one of the things. I wonder how annoying is annoying. I mean, I often think we should go around again and talk to the people that we met the last time and remind them, because if you knock on the door and they say, "Oh yeah, I'll give you your number one," or else maybe a number two, but I'm hearing that they won't necessarily do that, no matter how enthusiastic they sound. So anyhow, I have no experience in pushing the movement forward. So sorry, back to you, Serena.
Back to me. Me personally, I just think we just need to shout a bit louder, get heard a bit more, and just reiterate to people that, all those leftists that you hear on Twitter, that's all they are. They're just Twitter trolls. In real life, they don't mean anything. They don't. You can just ignore them. I actually did have one incident with a politician, and it was an actual politician that had said, had made little of my two daughters. Right? It wasn't people on the street. It was an actual politician, and that was the worst of it. Do you know what I mean? They were down handing out leaflets, and she started calling my kids Nazis and scumbags and stuff like that. So and even my girls were looking at her going "Oh my God, there's something wrong with her." You don't do that's not normal. That's not normal. Carry on. And she's meant to be a politician. She's meant to be someone that sits in a doll and runs this country and sits berating teenagers.
TD.
Yeah. Yeah.
How old are your daughters, by the way, if you don't mind?
16 and 20.
Yeah. So one's one's a minor. That's like bullying of a minor.
Yeah. And this is somebody that's in the doll. Mm-hmm. An absolute disgrace. These are supposed to be people running their country. It's ridiculous. They haven't a clue. Mm-hmm. So it's up to, and it's, people will sit behind their chairs and give out and say, "Oh, we should be doing this and we should be doing that." So stand up and do it. Stand up and come out and help. No one's asking you to, stand and put yourself forward for election, but just come out and help those that are, Like the two of you ourselves that got up and came out, and you helped Gemma, and I don't know who did you run with? Yeah.
Karen, you were all over the place. You were in Dublin, canvassing with Ben Scallon, wasn't it?
Ben Scallon,
Ben Gearóid as well. Did you do a wee spell with Ben Gearóid?
No, I didn't do that. No.
Okay. And then,
see, at that point, Cottle was getting ready, so I switched over.
Okay. I did Dublin with Ben Gearóid and Cathal up in Louth as well as my own campaign. Yeah. To one of Gemma's meetings, and I think I saw you there, Jenny. Did that?
Where was that? Sorry,
Balbriggan.
Oh yes. Mostly in Balbriggan, all around North County Dublin.
Yeah, so it's just that if we could get more people to come out and give a dig out, a half an hour to an hour throwing a few leaflets in a door, it does make a difference. You don't have to be sitting out there putting your face forward and shouting from the rooftops, but just a little dig out, delivering a few leaflets, giving a hand to whoever, it does make a difference.
I agree,
What I thought is that there could be a career progression for activists, with stages, almost like stages of training to take you through the steps of increasing, because for somebody coming off the sofa, they're not going to be, that's not the person. Are they going to be ready to stand on the street corner on their own with a loud speaker shouting, the points of the party and hand out leaflets? No, of course not. But they can't possibly get there, and there's no pressure on them to go that far. Maybe they maybe they can shadow somebody and put leaflets through a door box, through letterboxes anonymously to start off with, just to get the feel of being out on their own or in a group, in a team of two, and then be on somebody's shoulder when they're going door to door, and then you build it up. You build up the level of, you know, the fear factor, or the level of responsibility required over time, and run. So some people might only ever be comfortable putting leaflets through letterboxes, and that's cool because that's the job that needs doing. Somebody might be content to do that for a week and then say, you know what, I'm bored of this after two nights. No, I want to go with somebody who's actually canvassing and stand on their shoulder and learn what they're saying. And then after a couple of nights, that person might be ready to do a few houses on their own with the more experienced canvasser as a learner driver, you know, on the pedals, jumping in. I mean, Karen's, we were doing that that afternoon. We did that up in Drogheda. Do you remember after the peace rally?
Oh, after the rally, yes, yeah.
We were sort of getting people blooded into the whole idea, and then some people found that they were able to, they had the hunger to go up through the levels, and next thing they were off with a bunch of leaflets around the town, standing on street corners, canvassing themselves. Yeah, they found their wings. Yeah, we had some great people, and it comes back to the ladies. It was yourself and Kay were basically the key hub for Drogheda. You guys did a fantastic job.
Can I just? Unfortunately, we hadn't got the luxury of going door to door. That was one day, but I found that being out on the street, probably going around, say, doing sport events and things like that, we got more of a broader audience, but we hadn't got the luxury of going door to door because of the time. I agree with what you're saying, Conor, because sorry?
We just hadn't got long enough.
Yeah, it was crazy, but we just had to go with it, and we kind of followed our instincts. What I found was that, like what you're saying around people graduating, starting off with going, say, door to door with a more experienced canvasser, that is very important. I'd done that when Ben was running his campaign. I had 2 women with me, but in Drogheda, obviously, we couldn't do that. But regarding, preparing people for, the future, like post-election canvassing is as important as it ever was. Unfortunately, we can't do that at the moment because we have a national emergency, but obviously there's things going on in the background. We need to kind of prepare for that, and maybe doing a stall maybe in the main street of wherever you live, like Ballyfermot, is that where you live, Drogheda, doing a stall and maybe introducing the party, your party, my party, Gemma's party, to the public, and saying this is who we are, this is what we stand for. Maybe have people sign up and say, let them kind of gradually come in, as you say, Conor, to maybe be a volunteer before they become a member, because it gives them a confidence to say, well, listen, we're going to send you in emails of what we're doing next weekend. There's an event coming up in Dublin, maybe a free speech rally. They might want to come up for us, kind of like, because sometimes you find that people from Drogheda might not go to these things that we are used to in Dublin, and they might not have the confidence to go, because what I've seen on the news, like, the violent, the rallies are quite, antagonistic, and they would not have the confidence to go on their own. So maybe if they came up with us, they're more likely to come up in a group. They might like to come up in a post-election canvas around some street, door to door with me or Kay or Cahill, and do it that way, because it's more like, it's very daunting, because if you're explaining the policies of the party, the only getting to know it's impossible. They're not going to be able to do it. So they watch me or you or Kay, they will be able to, another canvasser that's more experienced, they will be able to kind of eventually get the hang of it. And I think you also remember that too, that people have family, kids, work, other things. You have to kind of allow for that as well. They're not going to be always available. So you have to allow for the other responsibilities. So even if you had a social, I think you mentioned it before, a social kind of get together, a few coffees, getting to know people, telling them, face to face, what the party's about, and eventually they move into kind of being a member of the party, any party, and then coming into their commons and so on. A kind of a gradual process, because otherwise you lose people straight away. I find you say, "Oh, must join our party," and then next thing you know, they're running away from it instead of coming to you. But post-election canvassing is extremely important. It's more important now than it ever was, I think, because we don't have the time to do it. So I don't know what other people think, or what other people are planning on doing, but we can't sit down and waiting for the next election, because we could actually use the time between now and, say, when the next election is outcome. It could be 6 months from now, depending on which way this crisis is going to end. We use the time now to kind of do it, and there's other ways of being creative about our time and how we use it. And, doing things like this is very important, but we're only kind of talking to like-minded people. We're not talking to people we need to be talking to, like your neighbour next door, or the people, on the street next to you, or the people who are doing their shopping in West Street or whatever. We need to be talking to them. We need to be talking to people who are outside in the villages around Drogheda, because they might not have heard of you. Because we were down in another village the weekend, and we're talking to 2 fishermen, and they hadn't really heard of us. And kind of like broaden your audience, knowing who your audience is. Don't presume anything, because we were not known. Your party was not known. Gemma, I mean, she might have some kind of history in Balbriggan, but again, it's like, you're starting from the bottom up, and you can't presume anything until you get talking to people and going to churches, talking to different groups of people. It'll be a good start, and kind of use your time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's very important to be out there talking to people and putting yourself out there.
I think she was more interested.
Yeah, in with the whole situation that we're in at the minute with the COVID-19, the Chinese virus, it's all online. I mean,
yes,
my whole thing and my whole, what I'm taught, like what went to college and all to study was mental health and stuff like that. So at the minute, I'm kind of kept busy online, keeping up to date and keeping in touch with people online. And like that, anybody that needs anyone to talk to can always email, like send me a Facebook message or an email. My phone number, you can get it online. It's always there. I've no problem, no issue talking to anybody. But at the minute, that's what I'm kind of kept busy doing is, checking in with people and making sure people are all right, because people are scared at the minute. So unfortunately, we can't go out because we can't go out and talk to these people now doesn't mean that we can't do absolutely anything,
Yeah.
So like that's more or less what what I'm kind of busy doing at the minute. Like I do an awful lot. I talk to a lot of people. Just checking in with them, making sure they're okay, and that's pretty much what I'm kind of doing at the minute because we can't go out.
Isolating.
Yeah, and that's why I have opened up me kind of Facebook to literally anybody. Like, do you know what I mean? Because people don't know what they're dealing with at the minute, and people are. It's great that people are starting to wake up and see how bad their government is.
Yes.
You have people that are saying, "Oh, look how great they are," and you only have to take, for example, isn't Leo playing a blinder? Where? Do you know what I mean? Where? What? So, people are starting to cop on, but you still have other people that are still fast asleep and think our government is great, and they're not.
They're not. No, absolutely not. They're not coping with this at all.
No.
I couldn't believe I actually heard myself saying to somebody, "Gosh, didn't Leo do well? He didn't totally lock us down or out or something." And then I said, what am I saying? We're like these little frogs in the water. It's everything in the boiling water. It's all being little baby steps until we're absolutely.
I mean, that's how sad it's become. It's come to the point where people are crying for a lockdown. Like, Jesus Christ, what happened to personal responsibilities? Pardon me language, what happened to people take responsibility for themselves? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you have these kids going around playing the coronavirus game. It's a new
I heard that today.
Yeah, where they're one of them is where they're licking toilets. I say leave them to it, natural selection. I reckon natural selection, leave them to it. They want to lick toilets, off they go. And then
there's a guy who's went up on YouTube, went viral on YouTube for licking the toilet rim, and then he actually went viral in real life because he got the bug, he got the COVID.
Good enough for him.
I'd say we all have it. If we were tested, we probably all have it or had it or something. Have you anything to say from your hospital experience, Karen? How are things in your place?
Well, at the moment, we're obviously, we're protecting ourselves by not going into each other's offices. And at the moment, we've only 2 of us in the office, and 2 of them have gone home. And that regarding, we've only 1 patient who has proved COVID positive. So it's not too bad. It's not hitting children that much. Just to let you know, I work in a common hospital, Serena. So it's more an adult thing than a child thing.
Yeah.
So kind of lucky, but at the moment, you probably heard on the radio today that the Tala Hospital is closing the children's pediatric section from tomorrow.
Oh my God!
And we're going to be getting Crumlin and Talmple Street. We'll be taking all the A&E patients and all the inpatients from now on. But until this is over, because all the beds for the children need to be for the adults. So I do understand that. We're putting more pressure on us from a hospital point of view, and we're a very highly specialised hospital as it is. So a lot of the serious stuff like orthopedics, burns, and all that kind of stuff, they're going to be coming to us most of the time. And we already get tele-hospital patients for orthopedics as it is, because it's only one for children in the whole country. So it's going to put more pressure on us. We need to do it, because obviously adults are more likely to be prone to this disease than children. So it'll be fun. From tomorrow, we're going to be taking on children. Great fun. So that's the way it is. I mean, knew that since yesterday. So it was announced in the media today, as far as I know, on the radio. So that's the way it is at the moment. From a health point of view, I have some concerns about the hospitals. I don't know where. Somebody said, I think Simon Harris was talking about nationalising the private hospitals. Now, who's paying for that?
We are.
Who is going to pay? Are they giving it for free? Are those owners of those hospitals giving it for free? Are they going to be good about this? Nationalising, there's 2,500 beds in the private sector. Yes, we need them, but
did I read somewhere? Maybe it was asking that it would be at cost. I'm not sure.
Yeah, at cost price to the taxpayer.
Yeah.
Well, why are we paying for it?
Well, I mean, obviously, a cost is still a cost. So, we'll be paying for that for the next 10, 20 years. But
like if you take Leo's address, for example, even the Patrick's Day one, he spent the whole time telling us about how much it's going to cost us. Do you know what I mean?
Awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't, let's look after people and here's some new information. It was like, look at this is, the information. Now we're going to put more frighteners on people and tell them what it's going to cost you. Basically,
Yes.
You don't go on TV as an Irish Taoiseach on St. Patrick's Day and quote Winston Churchill. Like that was a silly move, right? And people think it's amazing. And then on another address, he started quoting Narnia. Like, Narnia. Like, you're supposed to be running a country, and you're quoting Narnia. I don't know. It just baffles me sometimes.
There's no leadership. There's no leadership in this country whatsoever.
No. Sure, he had to wait till Boris Johnson closed all, he had to wait to see what Boris Johnson was doing in England before they did it here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And people are like, oh, but sure, he's brilliant. He's playing the blinder. Where? He hasn't done nothing. He's an EU puppet. He's told what to do.
Yeah. And it does bother me, and a lot of people have said that the borders weren't closed down. They're still not. I mean, I know the buses are not going to the airport anymore, but the borders aren't closed. And
there's still flights coming in and out. Now, I understand. Don't get me wrong. Sorry. I understand there's people that need to get home and there's Irish people that need to come back, right?
Yeah.
Now, I understand that. But they should be limited. There's still an awful lot of flights coming in. And close the borders. They're still taking in, like, refugees from Albania and Georgia. Some of them only went in there last week, was it?
Is that right?
Yeah, down to, was it in Kilkenny? I'll get the exact name of where they went in, but they only went in there last week. And
I think that was Tullamore.
Where?
Tullamore.
Yeah. It begins with a C, the place where they moved in.
Oh, Carasiveen then.
That's the one.
Kerry, is it?
That was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right, so they were brought over and moved in there last week. Why? Like, the country is literally on its knees, and they want to bring in more. Like, it's ridiculous. We can't cope. We have, you know, we never had a housing crisis. It's an immigration crisis. If we hadn't got half of that, we wouldn't have half of the problems we have. You know, and that's my thinking on it anyway. Because like, even now, right, with the COVID, you know, these people in direct provision are complaining that, you know, they have to self-isolate, that they need somewhere better. It's like, you're not paying for it, you're getting it for nothing. What are you complaining for? You know, yeah, you know, what about the homeless on the street? Look at the homeless. How are they going to self-isolate? No, like, you know, and the government are saying, oh, well, let's look after these people in direct provision because they're at risk. What about your Irish homeless? What about the people in nursing homes? What about the people that are already in hospitals? What about the staff, the healthcare workers, the cleaners, all them people that have to go into work? You know, what's wrong with putting them first? You know?
That's not going to happen.
No, it doesn't. An absolute disgrace. You know, you have Charlie Flanagan, every chance he gets, he's pushing the whole direct provision, whatever. Like, all the time he's pushing the direct provision agenda. It's like, seriously, like, it's like he's like a broken record at this stage.
Yeah.
You know, and until everybody's closed, of course people don't take it serious. And I'm not on about saying, like, you know, close the borders that nothing can get in and out. You know, we're going to need, obviously, borders need to be open, but for essentials, for food and healthcare stuff and stuff that needs to be moved, not, you know, not people.
Yeah.
You know,
you can't have movement of people in a crisis like this, and none of us have seen this before, and it's unprecedented. Also, the issue of Charlie Flanagan releasing 319 new, not fully trained Gardaí into the workforce on top of everything else. And I know you cannot do that because they're not fully trained. There's so much things to learn for a young Garda in the 6 months that they do it fully.
Yeah.
And between human rights protocols and the law in Ireland and the procedures around prisoners, you can't learn that in 2 months. And, you know, there's 319 Gardaí spread across the country that are not trained fully, and yet they graduated. It's not their fault. A decision was made, and it's not the right decision. And then the sergeant that's going to receive them into their station is not going to have the time to hand over an untrained Garda, a very untrained Garda, to a full-time trained Garda. There's more time spent looking after them instead of doing the jobs that they have to do. Now, I did see an upsurge in on the beat policing now in Drogheda lately, which is unusual. I have to say it's good. It's good it's happening. Hasn't seen that in a while. But I mean, how long will it last? I don't know, because it could be down to pressure from above regarding the gang feud. But at the same time, it needs to be how you police an area is very basic, on the beat, patrol, and then obviously the emergency response, and the three-pronged way. But it does disturb me that the 319 Gardaí, 2 months training, is out, and whether they could be in the station, that's fine. But that means they're not trained in the station either. I mean, there's a fair bit of work to be done in the station, dealing with public, dealing with different things, prisoners coming in on bail, passports, different queries, and then they constantly have to check in with a sergeant or who they're with. There's a lot to take in such a short period of time.
Just for 1 second, just interrupt for 1 second. I think it's just worth letting our audience know that you have some background in this experience in this area.
I was a reserve for 8 years, but I was 3 months I had training, but that was very different to a full timer.
Mm-hmm. And then 8 years on the job experience as well, of course, as a Garda reserve.
Yeah. So I mean, between being on patrol, in the car, on the beat, in the station, there's a lot to take in, and that's just from a reserve point of view. So, but if you're a full-time guard, there's a lot more expectation, and the public won't know that you're only got 2 months training, and they're looking at a young guard who's only 2 months and expecting more than what they could deliver. So, if you go into a station and you ask a guard a question, expecting them to know the answer, but they're constantly having to go back and ask permission, or what kind of rights do they have? Dealing with prisoners and knowing the protocol about prisoners, their care, their human rights, their handling of prisoners, difficult prisoners. Some are violent, some of them are not so violent. It's not as easy as just putting them there. There's your powers. You're graduated now, and then you go into your station, and they may never get full-time training.
No.
Are they ever going to be brought back into Templemore and given the rest of the training? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were pushed through for 3 months, and that was very, very hard and very difficult. And in hindsight, I would have had more time myself, but we were kind of like new in the first group. So as a reserve, it was kind of very exciting, very thrilling, but looking back on it, it wasn't a good idea. But what's happening now, I think, why would you need to push 319 for a national emergency? You could have brought the army in for that and working behind scenes with the Gardaí if necessary, and then let the guards who are currently only there since January, to kind of like go and do that training and graduate in August or whenever they're meant to be graduating, and let it be done properly. And that's what we would expect. Any member of the public would expect to have that kind of properly trained Garda that's competent. If you go in if you're upset or something, and that guard is like, doesn't know how to handle, it could be anything, it could be assault, it could be, it could be somebody coming in to report a crime. What kind of level of experience would they have to deal with that? And it kind of puts more pressure on the unit that's there already. So I do have issues with it. It's not a decision that should have been made. I don't know how, maybe other people might feel differently about it. We might think, we need to do something that's radical in an emergency. But to tell you the truth, having an extra Gardaí on patrol, untrained, is not the answer, to be honest. What do other people think?
What's happening with the army? Were they being mobilised and there's no sign of them on the streets? Or is that just in case?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
getting riotous?
It's worthwhile. Let's cast our mind back to
being drafted in to help with, see where they're setting up all the testing sites.
Yes. Oh, you mean the ships?
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's one in Crow Park. There's one along the quays.
On the ship.
Yeah. There's a few of them, and I think that's what they've been drafted in for now. I'm not 100%, but I'm nearly 90% sure that's what you are drafted in for.
On that note about the army, just before we go any further, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Serena. Do you remember about 2 weeks ago on the weekend, there was all these rumours about the army were being mobilised, and people were saying, "Here comes the police state. It's going to be lockdown. The army are mobilising. We're going to be locked in our." It didn't happen. I just think it's interesting that the power of rumour and the power of, I don't know what you want to call it. Any comments on that? And then before we move back to, or maybe not. So I mean, I just thought I'd throw that in there. That with the technology and everything and the connectedness, it's very easy for rumors to sort of like rumors that don't really have any foundation to get a certain momentum and almost like snowball very quickly.
Yes, very quickly. Yeah.
Like in a way, we sort of like need to hold these rumors to account. Hey, rumor. Account for yourself. No, because nobody. Right, that happened, and then there was all this. Maybe we can learn something from that. There's anything to be learned from that, or maybe not, or maybe we just want to. Maybe Serena, you go back to making the point that you're making if you want to.
Which point was that? Sorry.
We were talking. Well.
The
last thing I remember we were talking about was the army on the somebody asked you where the army were deployed, and you were saying that some of them were in the testing centers.
Yeah, and they were all given letters out, and they were asked to be ready, and it still could, they still could be drafted in, and if they're drafted in, I reckon it's more, they need the hospitals and stuff are going to need help, and. Like they have a paramedic side to the army, and I know they were all asked to be ready, to if anyone needed a dig out that day, we're going to have to do it. I'm not sure about the rest of them, but I know the paramedics will, because if it gets as big as they say it's going to get, this whole COVID thing, they're going to need, as many people to help out as possible.
Just, I was talking to a guy in my office last week, and he said he worked in A&E in the Mater, and I was all ears then, wondering I was going to get a story, and I said, is it crazy in there? He said, no, it's very quiet. He said, there's a few people drifting in with sniffles, and we tell them to get the F out of the place.
I see the figures for Northern Ireland. The deaths have now surpassed the Republic.
Yeah,
we've gone 10, and south of the border is 9. So I mean, we're way out of in the north. 6 counties way out of proportion, because we should be like, it's 40%. It's like 40% of the population. 2 million, just less than 2 million, as opposed to 5 million. So it's we should be like 40% of your figures, but we're actually bigger. So I think we've got a bigger problem with this, and there's a lack of testing going on. So it's just coming home.
Tested, and people are waiting over 2 weeks on a test, and they're being told now with this new. Didn't he bring in 2 new? Like, you have to have these 2 symptoms to be tested, and a lot of people are asymptomatic until they hit day 5, and by then, like, it's, there's no point in testing them because they're very, very sick. So, like, it's kind of, you'll know you have it by then.
Yeah.
I know my neighbour is already a week and a half waiting on hers, and she would be in, they have the categories, like if you have breathing difficulties and all, and you have problems, they'll kind of test you quicker. You're put ahead of people, and she has COPD, I think it is. So she was, she should be tested very quick. A week and a half waiting on a test already.
Yeah.
So it's, are they being honest about their testing? Sure, he already put out, I don't know who the doctor's name is on RTE that gives out all the information, but he had already said they can't be 100% sure that by the time the tests get to the actual centre to be tested, that they're out of date, that, whether the test is any use or not. Sure, what good is that?
That skews the figures. The figures then.
Yeah. And he said this live on RTE, so this is not something where I'm plucking out Sky. This is what the man said live on RTE, and he said, well, what difference? Not what difference, but we can't be 100% sure that by the time the tests are actually tested, that they're out of date. So you don't know whether you're getting a false negative or not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just more incompetence. Like, they can't even, this is straightforward testing. They've, 7 different sites, I think more than that, set up already for testing. And they can't even do that properly. Like, it's just more incompetence from them.
Yeah.
It just goes back, it brings you back, and it brings you back to the whole smear test scandal again.
Yeah.
Without dragging up the past, and without, every time they do something, they can't do it right. There's someone always screws up somewhere. Like, if you're going to be tested, you should at least know that your test is going, like, if they're going to stick them up your nose and swabs up your nose and swab down your throat, you want to know that they're getting tested. But by the time they get these tests to where they're being tested, it could be out of date, and it could be no use.
Yeah.
So,
and you could be going back to work unnecessarily.
Yeah.
And back into the family life, because we had 2 people out, and they're getting tested today, hopefully, and they could be negative and maybe not really negative, and they're coming back into the workforce. Yeah. And it's not great. So it's very slow. I believe tests come back, meant to get test kits into Conor Hospital today, or into the system today for staff to speed up that process. So hopefully that might quicken things up, because the protocol in the hospital is, if you feel you're symptomatic, you ring the occupational health, and they will go through the questionnaire. And then if they feel as though you could be symptomatic for COVID, you have to go home. I have 2 colleagues gone this week.
Yeah.
Monday and Wednesday they're gone, and they've gone for 2 weeks. That's downtime for us, and we can't really do anything about that until they come back. Until they get tested and prove that they haven't got it, then they come back then to work. And like you say, if they're delayed, it's kind of it makes the whole thing useless.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer is. It should be quicker than this. My swab should be taken, and it should be approved one way or the other.
The healthcare system.
Sorry?
Especially for people working in hospitals.
Absolutely. We're not even front line. We're back of office. Yeah. We're on the administration side.
Yeah, but the registration is still needed. You know, if you're working in a hospital, right, I know this might sound a bit like selfish, like I don't work in a hospital, so, but I think if you're in a hospital or supermarkets, hospitals, factories, cleaners, the cleaning staff, if any of them have symptoms, they should be tested straight away, because they're the ones putting themselves at risk.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm at home with my family. We're having a great time. We're having a ball. Loads of family time. I've loads of kids. My house is packed. So we're all right. But the likes of people that are putting themselves out there and putting themselves at risk, from top oncologists to like major surgeons, down to the cleaners that are cleaning out these hospitals, cleaning out supermarkets, they should be put first, because they're the important people at the minute. They're the ones that are putting their life, like yourself, they're the ones putting themselves on the line. People that have no choice but go to work should be looked after. And obviously, like the older people, or people that are at, like, more vulnerable people, like people that would be at risk.
Yeah, like older people in the 70s, 65. Yeah, because their immune system is much less than mine or yours. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to look after myself by making sure I'm eating the right food and doing the right things, rest and all that. But I mean, an older person wouldn't have that.
Yeah.
The immune system as good as, say, a person who's in their 40s, 20s, 30s, and 40s. So it kind of like, you're kind of looking after as much as possible. Or somebody's irresponsible. We're kind of like, at the moment, we're kind of working and making sure no one comes into our office and we're not going to their office. It's kind of like you're waiting at the door to kind of exchange any things you need. And that's the way it is. That's how we're looking after ourselves and other colleagues. And that's what we can do, and it's working. It's working reasonably well. But when everyone starts to come back into the office when they're out on holidays or sick, it's going to be more difficult, because the space of social distance is going to be harder to kind of maintain. So at the moment, management, we're looking at different ways of having teams coming in at different times and not contact with each other. We don't know how long it's going to last. Could be a month from now, we could still be having this conversation. Hopefully not. Hopefully we're managing not. We haven't peaked yet. We might not have that peak if we keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
In England they've kind of reached that peak, in America and obviously in Italy they've reached that peak, but we haven't got there yet. And if we reach that peak, our ICU beds, I think it's only 250 beds or something like that in the whole country for ICU, which is very, very bad for 5 million people. Just does not work. So I think a lot of work. I mean, hopefully, people will kind of respect that distance as much as possible. It is very difficult and it's very isolating too. You're trying to kind of, we're social animals. We want to kind of meet friends and, go and see family members. And last weekend we couldn't even visit, Mother's Day and things like that. It's very, very hard to kind of keep that social distance all the time. So I think over time, we keep it up, we will get through it, hopefully. So,
has anybody studied the laws that are being brought in about groups of people getting together and? Well,
I've heard different pieces. Yeah.
I mean, take it away. I mean, you've had a look at it, so give us your take on that.
Me? No, I haven't. I should really. Has anybody?
If you're in groups of, there's nobody more than, it can only be groups of less than 4. If the 4 people are in the one household.
Yeah.
If you're not from the one household, you can't come out, basically. You have to stay within your own kind of company. they can have you held up in your house for 2 weeks, or they can take you out and have you held up in a hospital for 2 weeks. That's pretty much the gist of it. Like, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I think that's pretty much the gist of it.
Well, isn't it the constitutionality of what they're doing? Is it not unconstitutional? Because we know real government, we know Senate. So what they're doing, I think people are questioning that. I mean, I know Gemma has.
Once it hits the weekend, that's it. The government is gone, because we need a Taoiseach to pass the Seanad, and it has to be the incoming Taoiseach who passes the Seanad, not the outgoing Taoiseach. So it can't be legal. So I'm waiting to see now what happens with this one, because he can't do it. But in saying that, now they're talking about a Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael government, like. So we'll wait and see.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But I mean, are they going to actually have a government this weekend, or are they?
Constitutionally, we have to. Constitutionally, because the Seanad has to be put forward. This weekend. If Leo passes the Seanad, it's unconstitutional. Like, it's illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that law cannot be passed.
What?
The law can't be passed then.
No. Okay. They can't pass any. They can't sign in any more legislation after Sunday.
Right. Okay.
Unless we have a government. So I bet you we'll have a government by what day are we today? Thursday. We'll have a government either tomorrow or Saturday. Watch.
Oh no. I don't know.
I'm just reading the comments here. Who DT is saying some good stuff. Did you see that, Conor?
Yeah. Go ahead, Jenny. You read it out there. Pick out the ones that's quite.
I read it. I hate the way this moves up. The state should have set up a sort of home delivery and local helpers organisation for people who can't go out, say if they break their back or get a virus, but we have no such service. And then he says it's everyone for themselves, and now we're all wishing we had some sort of community spirit when for decades we were shitting on each other.
What's really sad about it is now people are at home in their homes all alone. All these people that wanted their big fancy careers, and I don't want family and I don't want this. Now they're locked at home. They'll see what it's like to be alone. That sounds terrible, I know, but that's what's happening. And apart from that, can I just say something along there what DT was saying about having to go to shops and all if you have nobody. Locally, if you can try and set something up yourself, because the government is not going to do it, it would be great that if people could come out, because we do have a few activists, so that if people could come out locally and there's little leaflets that you can get printed up. I'm going to put them, I'll put them up on my own Facebook page, and you can print them out. And what you do is you just put your name and number on them and put them in through, older neighbours' doors. And that if they need anything, then they can just give you a ring. That's all. I done that around my own area, but it'd be nice that if other people were worried about neighbours or stuff like that, that you can throw your name and number in the door, and then if they need that, they can give you a ring.
I'll get that off. I'll just print it off and deliver them around a couple of close streets here. Yeah. Then you this neighborhood, I don't really know my neighbours or anything like that. I've just moved in here about 3 months ago, so it's a good way. I mean, obviously from a distance, from a safe
distance,
social distance.
You could have a neighbour like that. You could have a girl who's stuck at home with a baby and doesn't want to go out. Do you know what I mean? You could have an elder person that's at home and can't go out and is stuck for something. But people are sitting at home and they're saying, "Oh, the government should do this and the government should do this." Our government don't care about Irish people. They never had and they never will. So why people expect them to start caring about us now, I'll never know. So if you want something done, you need to get up and do it yourself. Don't wait for, don't wait for Leo Varadkar to turn around and say, well, here, this is the scheme we're doing. So you now take part in this scheme. Get up off your own back and do it. Take a bit of initiative. Go out and, if you've an elderly neighbour or a young neighbour, whatever neighbour it is, throw your number and your name in their letterbox. Ask them, do they need a dig out? Ask them, say, look, I go to shops maybe on a Wednesday or a Friday. I'll be going to the shops. If you need anything, just even text what you need and I'll bring it back for you. Do you know what I mean? Or send even send them a text to say, how are you doing today? Or, Jesus, it's a lonely old time, isn't it? If you need, if you fancy a chat, I'm at the other end of the phone. Little things like that make a huge difference to people,
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And, apart from it being older people, there's an awful lot of younger, vulnerable people that have underlying issues, like they have autoimmune diseases that they're petrified to go out. So it costs nothing, to send a Facebook message. 90% of people are on Facebook now. I know there's an awful lot that aren't, but a lot of people are on Facebook. It costs nothing just to shoot them a text to say, morning, how's your day going? Do you know? It's just about out for each other. The whole thing of, Ireland was huge on community. It used to be brilliant for community. All that's starting to go now. It's like people look after themselves. Oh, how's your neighbour? I don't know. I just look after myself. I go in and close my door. I wasn't brought up like that. I don't know if you, I don't know an awful lot of people in where I live that were brought up like that, but I wasn't brought up like that. And, it costs nothing just to check on people to see how they are, especially, with what's going on. A lot of people are petrified, regardless of what you believe about the COVID and what you don't believe. A lot of people really are scared of what's going on.
That's true. That's true. The reason why people don't know their neighbours, I have to say I'm guilty with myself, because even when I was in Dublin, it was very hard to get to know your neighbour, because people did close the doors and people kind of kept away from each other. And not as before this national emergency, even when I was living in Dublin, people didn't really relate. People done their own thing. They had their own friends, their own pastimes and hobbies and jobs and that. And even when I'm living back here, I don't really see my neighbours because I'm gone all day. I'm gone for 12 hours. So I don't see them anyway. It's very difficult to have a community.
Because people just like that. People are so focused on material gain, and no, I'm not saying this about you personally, but they're so focused on getting this career.
I was that guy in the past.
Yeah, they're so focused on materialism and earning money and having the big house and having the fancy car and keeping up with the Joneses that they lose themselves. Completely lose themselves. I have to be honest now, I do. I live on a great road. It's not everybody on the road comes out, but once it's nice out, all the kids are out playing. Not everyone will come out, but they know if they need anything, they're road.
There's still hope for Ireland, because I've seen neighbours like that in North Dublin as well. When I was out canvassing for Ben Gilroy, I went into these massive estates, and there are rows and rows of houses like that. Semis and sorry, not detached, but semis and terrace houses that are. And it was heartening to see, because when you go down the main roads, the main streets in Dublin, when you go, moving out towards the suburbs, you see the changes, and you see, people coming out of they've turned all above the shops into tiny little flats, and you get the sense that there's not much community spirit there. You see closed up shops. You see massive brands, international brands everywhere. But it's good to know that there is still hope for this country. I lived in London recently, and I just pray that Dublin doesn't go the way of London, where it's just anonymous. It's just totally anonymous. And you don't even know what nationality the people living next door are. You don't care about them. They don't care about you. Nobody really looks at you. There's rubbish land everywhere. Just zero community spirit, and that could be. My kids live in London. I'm a little bit worried about possible breakdown in law and order. If depends on the way this COVID this health emergency. If it turns into a food emergency, or there's disruption in the supply chain, or it goes on for a long time. This lack of community spirit that would hold that would in the past would have held people, bonded people together, and given people a sense of shared responsibility. So I don't want to go on too long about that. But Jenny, I want to make sure that we did talk before about leaving some of these talks without having had a chance to say what it was that you wanted to say. So I know we're sort of like going for an hour and 15. So we might want to wrap it up soon. I don't know. I'll leave it up to you guys. Totally up to you guys. Jenny, I want to make sure that if you've got something that you,
I don't feel underprivileged, Conor. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything that you wanted to bring up? Any subject you wanted to touch on?
No, not this time. Maybe
okay.
if you do it again, I'll have a few more to bring up.
Just
and hopefully
sorry for a sec, Jenny, where you were saying, you used to be able to not have to lock your doors in Dublin, believe it or not. I remember that, because when we were growing up, we didn't lock doors.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have to lock doors. Even down the country, I think you have to lock doors at this stage. I could be wrong now. I don't live down the country. So sorry, Jenny. I was just looking at his comments.
Yeah, that's good.
That's grand. That's grand. I think it's very hard to focus on anything.
Being with us, and he's like, we're having a good backwards and forwards there. This is our first time live streaming, so it's good to have DT, somebody who's got a bit of experience of live streaming, giving us the feedback. It's new territory for me. Anyway, enough about me. Go on ahead, Jenny, you were saying?
Well, I think we did quite well with four of us in the loop. Yeah. But at least seeing each other is different to when you actually can't see the person. I did one with you there a while back, Conor, and it was just on, well, I couldn't see anybody, and it was a bit daunting. It's hard. Yeah.
When you do it this way, it's just like having a conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't think. Yeah, it's much better. Yeah, much better.
Yeah,
much better. Well,
should we make this a regular thing? And we could have
people to death. Yeah.
Sure. Good. If we, I mean, we have to talk about the health issues. Sorry, Conor. We have to talk about the virus thing because it's so much on our minds, but we can bring up other subjects other times, can't we?
Yeah, God, yeah.
Let's let's talk offline, and maybe next Tuesday there was I was thinking we could make this a regular spot, like Tuesday 2 o'clock for the women of the movement, basically Rana and the Gluaiseachta. And I just sit back and let you get on with it, so I'm trying not to.
You could always call yourself
sort of bossy and interrupting personality in the back seat.
You can just identify as a woman, Conor. It's grand.
It doesn't always have to be just us. I mean, try and get some of the other girls.
Exactly. I mean, so, for example, if you can't make it, then maybe Kay will come on, or Tara, or some of the other people that we've invited, or Tracy.
Yeah, the other girls just had stuff to do tonight.
Did you put Andrea into the group?
Andrea, exactly. Yeah. Some nights it might be 2, some nights it might be 5 or 10. So we could make this a regular thing on a Tuesday. So if anybody out there who's an activist, this is we want to hear from activists, female activists who you've stood for election, or you've gone to protests or organized protests. We want to hear from you. Please.
I'm laughing at DT. I don't know who that is, saying we've no trolls here.
That's a relief.
Oh, they will come, DT. Don't you panic.
Bring them on. I'm not afraid of them.
We've had people calling us worse on the doorsteps, or what's an online troll doesn't worry the likes of us. Bring it on. Come on.
Oh.
Okay, so we wrap it up, guys. Shall we wrap it up?
We wrap it up. Yeah. So it was great talking, just and
thanks very much, everybody. I think that was good. That was good, especially for the first time.
And it was great to meet you and Jenny. So,
well, you know me now.
Yeah. Bye.
All right, guys. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.
Smash the like button, as Kennedy say.
Okay, guys. EOI.
Okay. Good night.
Night.